Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. To you the viewers, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, stop and listen. My name is Kelly Neuendorf, and welcome to SBS's first documentary series, Reality Bites, where we talk to you about which documentaries are truthful in their film techniques. Tonight I will be talking to you about the film Invisible Children. Invisible Children addresses the issues with the children of Uganda who are abducted and forced military use of these children after they are abducted. This documentary is an expository documentary, so the use of expository is used to describe and explain what is happening about the Ugandan children during the war. This documentary started off by one young American man wanting to film the documentary in Africa after he was transformed by a church group in Kenya. So in spring 2003, the young man got two of his friends and travelled to Africa to film the documentary that would soon turn out to be one of the biggest and most successful about Africa. Directors Jason Russell, Bobby Bailey and Lan Poole knew they wanted to go to Africa, but they had some minor problems. They didn't have any cash, they had no equipment, let alone any knowledge on how to film. Their problems were soon answered when they sent out many letters explaining what they wanted to do. So now they had the money and the equipment of eBay, though they still didn't know how to film. But anyway, they still headed off to Africa, even though President Bush advised against any travel to Sudan, Africa. When they got to Africa, it took them a while to find out what to document. But thanks to their new African mum, they found what they came for, a story, the story of the invisible children of Uganda. These children really were invisible, as no one has ever told their story until now. So the directors in this film have told their story. The story started off about Alice Laquena and later Joseph Kony, both saying they are possessed by God's Spirit. They wanted to overthrow the government, but they decided to use children. They brainwashed these children into thinking they were bulletproof and they cannot die unless they've done something wrong to spirits. Since the war has started, thousands of children have been abducted and killed, and tried to abduct more children. Though this issue has come around by the war, this documentary is focused more on the abduction of these children. The children being forced to participate in hostilities and the children being scared of being abducted, as these children have no voice to speak up for themselves. So the few adults that have no money and time still help these children out. Throughout this documentary, you always hear about the LRA abducting children between the ages of 8 and 14, as they were big enough to carry guns, but still small enough to sneak into more orphanages and abduct more children. But also these children were easy to replace. The LRA saw these children as easy targets, but the rest of the world saw the mistreatment of children. The purpose of this documentary is to educate the viewers about what is really happening in the war of Uganda. The directors have successfully positioned their viewers so they would feel bad about themselves, and then the viewers would donate money to assist the scholarship to the Ugandan children. Not only does this help with their education, but this also helps to get these children away from their violent lives and the fear they have every single day and night of their lives so far. The ideology represented is how these children between the ages of 8 and 14 are forced and brainwashed to use weapons to kill friends, families and people in their home villages, and abduct more children just to try and overthrow the government. This story supports the social and cultural beliefs of the Western society because the children should not be subjected to such harsh lies and violent lifestyles. Though this documentary does not tell the story from the government or the LRA, but the three directors would not have been able to talk to the other side without being killed because of the violent wars and without the government and the LRA actually wanting to talk about this issue. This documentary is both shocking but educational, which creates awareness on this topic that has turned out to be dangerous for the directors, and as this story is so unknown to many. Very successfully, the directors have managed to use film techniques to help make this documentary mean something to each and every person that has seen this and is going to see this documentary. Though most of these techniques in the film are seen towards the end, so you can gradually see the film is getting better and better each minute you watch. As at the beginning, they play around by blowing up termite hills, chopping snakes' heads off and screaming like little girls. This film starts off where they show an image of a young child walking with a bag over his shoulder. But a man who is the Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs talks about how terrible the children in Uganda are treated. They selected this man as he is a member of the United States Emergency Relief and has been helping by bringing the world's attention to the forgotten issues, which include the northern Ugandan forgotten children. You see that throughout this film there are loads of different people talking. A lot of interviews are of the children who have escaped the horrible LRA, children talking about whom they have killed, why, and their families. Also, many interviews were of the adults who have given their time to help these children out. Basically, all of these interviews are either filmed as close-ups or medium shots so the audience can see how people getting interviewed are feeling by seeing the reactions from their face and the use of their hands. The directors have used a lot of long shots and wide shots to show the audience what is in front of their eyes. Most of the shots are of children sleeping and gathered together at night in the bus shelters or under the hospital for safety from the LRA. This tells the audience that the directors have stumbled across what is actually happening to these children. Some other techniques include the images of children crying, but the sounds of the crying is carried on to the next image. Gunfire sounds as hundreds of images flicker past of death, beatings, dancing and children. They have also used many images of children holding guns but not actually using the guns. Though these images may not have all been exposing and horrible, they can still change the mind of people watching. They have created a film that changes the mind of people watching so they will donate and help the invisible cause. Overall, Jason wanted to film a documentary in Africa because he knew there was a story to tell, though he did not know what at the time until he finally came through with a story. A lot of the language in this film is very informative. A lot of facts and figures are used to attract the attention of those people with a lot of money. Before, I have said that this story does not tell the story of the government and the LRA. This is mainly because Jason, Bobby and Lauren only came to Africa by themselves and very unprotected. So if they did try to talk to the government or the LRA, they would have most likely been killed. So if they did decide to do a story about the government, they could have done a story about how the government too were recruiting children into their army as well as the accusers of mass rape. But it's not only just the LRA and the government using children. The homosexual groups are apparently using children for God knows what. The same with the LRA. Recent interviews, Alice has claimed that God talked to her and that she and the Spirit did not want to kill the civilian or the prisoners of war. Then Joseph Kony defeated Alice and took over. So most of this information to do with these children being turned into fighters and so on is in accordance with the United Nations. So it is hard to tell if the information is right. So I think more would believe the United Nations more than the Ugandan government. So because we are only told one side of the story, we are made to believe that the LRA and the Ugandan government are all bad about the way they treat the children. This may or may not be true though. So this film is still their first film. It is a very successful film that targets the people with money, a heart and willpower to help and raise the money. Jason has said one thing has surprised him the most, and that is how much young people of today are helping out with Invisible Children charity. They raise way more money than he thought by selling horses for money and selling shirts. This film has raised money for these children to get an education, but unfortunately the LRA has not stopped. Today, they are spreading the fear among all. Since tonight, it is time for you to watch this documentary and see the issues that are represented. Maybe at the end of watching this, you might want to help out these children. Thank you for watching and good night.
Mr. Alien, I don't care about where you've been. There's no need to be afraid, just follow